First, many thanks to our sponsors, Kalahari Resorts and Conventions, Naples, Marco Island, Everglades Convention and Visitors Bureau, Kiawah Island Golf Resort, and Figment Design. So sit back, get comfortable. We are on our way, and I'm introducing Jim Feldman.
Again, sorry for the tech challenges, but that's part of the fun of shift happens. So some people will say the future of work is remote. Obviously, the future is now. There are people that have never understood that Zoom was not tooth whitening, but a video conferencing. And so a lot of the things that you're going to see today will be applicable to your business. Some of them won't. But I suggest that you start to look for those few items that will literally shift the way you do business in the world. Because not every company can be a lighthouse. But companies that plan on what illuminates to be done using the technology that's out there now will really survive and thrive as we come out of the post-COVID-19 pandemic. So moving forward, what we want to say is that, there's lots and lots and lots of tips that are out there. In fact, in doing the research for my most recent book, I found over 300 new apps, softwares, hardware applications that I had not been aware of, let's say 3 months ago. So I've distilled down the 60 top items for us, and I have decided to let you go through and pick what you want. So as you go through this procedure, let me talk about what we're going to do. First of all, we're going to articulate what the problem is. And the problem is that remote working has become the accepted norm. In fact, over 50% of all workers have decided that they want to keep remote working in some form or some fashion. And whether that's 10% of your work day or 80% of your work day, telecommuting is here to stay. So you need to understand the differences, the applications, the abilities, and as we experience today, a very patient time frame to fixing what will inevitably go wrong. I ran through this presentation literally 30 minutes before we had the tech challenge. Nothing was wrong with it, and then all of a sudden, quote, shift happened. So to look at that, you've got to realize that I am picking standout apps or software. And I want to make sure you understand I am picking things that I use on an Apple system. I am not Android, I'm not PC. So some of them may work, some of them may not work. But as it becomes more ubiquitous and the lines between an Apple product and everybody else are getting blurred. So don't worry about it if it's not available today. It may be available tomorrow. The next part of this is that everything that I talk about today is about productivity. It's not getting the bells and whistles. It's not getting the cherry on top of the ice cream sundae. It's to try to make you more productive on your day-to-day business. And then the last part of this is that it's blended learning. Write this down. One size does not fit all. There are going to be applications that you don't care about because it's not in your area of responsibility. There are other things that you're going to go, OMG, I never knew I could do that. And then there's going to be the middle of the ground, middle of the road where you go, well, I didn't know about it. It sounds interesting. I'm going to take a look at it. So let me kind of tell you that everything that we're talking about today falls under certain connective characteristics. We're all experiencing problems. We all experience opportunities. The question is what you're going to do with it. So when we went into shutdown in mid-March, I didn't know how long it was going to be, so I decided I would write my next book. Because I had time, fewer distractions, and unlimited access to the internet, I was able to put together a 300-page book in less time than we've been shut down. Could I have done that in the normal course of events? Probably not. Here's the issue. The issue is that we want to maintain our competitive edge as we come out of COVID-19. We certainly want to exploit opportunities, and we want to define our new value propositions. Along the way, we've learned how to reconnect. I have a client that is just now learning the difference between FaceTime and Facebook. She is trying to do Zoom calls on a small iPhone where 30 to 60 people are populating the screen with their pictures. Clearly, she's tech challenged, but I give her a tremendous amount of credit for trying to learn and to trying to understand how we're all going to have to move forward. So think of it like this. We all go to a grocery store. Everybody can access the same ingredients in the grocery store. If you're not a cook, you may go to the frozen foods. If you're an okay cook, you may pick up enough to make salads and easy to do things, or you may be someone like me who considers themselves a gourmet type of chef. So at the end of the day, we all have the same ingredients, but what we can bake or make is dependent upon the skill level. And the skill level is dependent upon your determination. As you try and fail, you learn how to do something, you learn how to do something better. So in each case, I look at an event and I see all these components the same way I see as ingredients in a grocery store. It may be that I don't have to concern myself with the logistics, or I have no control over the security. But all of these ingredients are the recipes for event management. And whether you're doing it or someone else is doing it, we must be made aware that they all need to be addressed. So in moving forward, I kind of call this a blended learning webinar. And a blended learning webinar says there's apps, there's equipments. I didn't limit it to the size of your company, although your budget may limit certain things. I didn't limit it to your technology background because somebody in the organization can learn how to do it, because certainly I did. And I want to remind you that it's like a box of crayons. We all got our box of crayons, but at the end of the day, we only use 3 or 4 of them, even though there were 20 or 30 in the box. But we liked knowing they were there. So in this blended learning, there's the connection, there's the online, there's the global, there's the project, and of course, the return to face-to-face at some time. Albeit different, face-to-face meetings and events are going to come back. In looking at this, I wrote a book. And the book is called Shift Happens, Reinvent Yourself. Now, the first thing I want to point out to you is the JFA tips/Amazon. That is using a device that shortens URLs. And so everything that I give you today will start with JFA tips / and then we're going to add on the name or the distinction for what we're talking about. Now, in writing my book, I sat back and I did the what's in it for me. Why does somebody need another book? And what I realized is this book was the grocery store. And what you needed was some help putting things together. So every book comes with one-on-one coaching. Now, for the price of the book to get one-on-one coaching, that's an extraordinary offer. But the point to this was you needed to have a Sherpa. You needed to have somebody in Top Chefs explain to you the difference between poaching and parboiling your salmon. One is going to be okay and one is going to be terrible. So as we go forward, I want you to remember that every single link starts off JFA tips / whatever it is that we're talking about. And again, in self-promoting the book, if you'd like to get one, you just add the word Amazon. If you'd like the ebook, then don't put in Amazon, put ebook. Thanks. That's the end of the commercial. In terms of moving forward, again, I'm going to remind you about the tips, but I'm going to remind you that I came up with a what's in it for me. And here's the caveat. Just because I'm recommending it, it's because I use it, and I may use it because I'm comfortable with it. I want to be transparent. Not everything here is for everybody. It's like the grocery store, and I'll call them out as we go forward. So moving ahead, I want you to write this down because this has been my mantra for every client I ever do business with. Don't let what you think you know prevent you from learning what you need to know. You are going to see things here today that will challenge you. You will see things today that you'll go, aha. And you'll see things today that you go, don't care, move on. What I do promise is that you're going to get a lot of information. So here is the first screenshot you may want to take. My suggestion is you set up screenshots and capture these, because then when you get the download and you get access, you'll be reminded of what was exciting to you. I love VisMe. I'm going to talk about it a little bit later. I love PicMonkey because once you get your pictures, you often have to edit, crop, etc., and it's a very easy tool to use. I couldn't do business without Grammarly, and I will talk about that specifically, but it's a writing assistant, and it makes me really smart at the right tone and grammatical inferences that I typically would ignore didn't I have this little tutorial sitting over my shoulder. And of course, Google Docs, because you want to be able to share and collaborate. The next group is communication, and you will hear a lot about Slack. I will spend less time on Slack and tell you about add-ons to Slack, but you owe it to yourself to check out Slack and communication tools for communicating with your team. And when you're communicating with your team, you got to know what time it is. I can't tell you how often I get booked for an event where they've said 2 p.m. and I put down 2 p.m. Central Time because that's where I am, but they were 2 p.m. in New Zealand. And as a result, we didn't connect. So I keep a time chart open all the time so that I can convert it, and I'll show you that and I'll give you the link to it. And Whereby is another video conferencing that doesn't require software to be loaded down, and I'll show it to you. In moving ahead, productivity is all about project management, and there's lots of project management tools out there. Answer is a project management tool that is relatively difficult to master at first, but very, very powerful once you understand it. And I will show you some upgrades and some other solutions for your productivity. Notion is another one if you want to create something that's totally customized to your organization. Hubstaff is time tracking productivity tool. I suggest you sign up for Hubstaff because they put out fabulous white papers that give you tips and tricks about what's going on, and you can qualify it by your own industry, your own discipline. As an example, I get their white paper on artificial intelligence. I always think I need artificial intelligence. I don't understand artificial intelligence, but their white papers help me to at least get sound bites that make me seem reasonably affluent in AI. And then Loom is another way to do screen sharing because it allows you to not only record it, but share the video very transparently. Sales and marketing, you've seen these before. I won't spend a lot of time on it. Pipedrive is a CRM tool. I will give a whole section on CRM. Agora is a social media management tool, similar to Buffer, similar to several others that are out there, where you can schedule your social media without going into every one of them individually. Zoom is probably in the last 4 months become the ubiquitous conferencing tool, but you'll notice today we're on GoToWebinar. There are Teams done by Microsoft and lots of other team building webinar softwares, conferencing softwares, but you need to find one, stick to it, and learn what it does for you. Livestream is another one for video streams, and it's much more robust. It requires a better bandwidth. It requires more background information for the people to use, and isn't as simple as, let's say, Whereby, which I gave you earlier. And Respana is a PR tool and link building. I'll go into that a little bit more depth later. And then file sharing, I mentioned before, Google Drive and Dropbox. You need to get those accounts because when you start uploading really big files, it's very difficult. And if you try to attach one to an email, it takes forever. It ties up somebody's email. Or if you go into Google Drive or Dropbox, it's resident there and it's a much faster download. If you start to think about what you're on right now, which are virtual platforms, look at all of these platforms from Zoom to Glisser. Those are the ones that have been out there for a long time. But since COVID-19, all the ones below the dotted line have come up. Things that you never heard of before. Brand new technology. I suggest you do a screenshot of this and wander through them and get a broader understanding, because if you're Zoom and it's working for you, but you're finding problems with interaction or breakout rooms or green screen or recording, you may find something as simple as the Omnipress or Run the World or the virtual events platform may solve that for you, and you don't have to spend all the time on Zoom. But remember, if you're going to switch virtual platforms, to tell everybody that you've done so, otherwise they're on Zoom and you're somewhere else. This one's fun. When you're on an event, you want to keep people engaged, and this is a Wheel of Fortune. So it's real simple how it works. You upload the attendees. It then gives you a Wheel of Fortune with everybody's name on it. You spin the wheel and you choose a winner. It's a freebie. I suggest everybody play with it. It's really engaging on a virtual platform, and of course you can do it every 10 slides, 20 slides, 50 slides. But whenever someone thinks they're going to win something for free, they stick around to see if they're a winner. So get the wheel of names, play with it, and you'll be glad that you did, because it's not the kind of thing that you might have found on your own, but you found it here today. I like getting certified. So one of the things that you may want to look for as we start moving forward into this world of virtual presentations is, has this individual understood the difference between a live presentation, a face-to-face presentation, and a virtual presentation? And so as an example, eSpeakers now certify speakers to prove that they understand how to use various video platforms. I just suggest you look for that like you look for any other certification process. As we move ahead, what we have now discovered during COVID is that we are visual learners. We may have known that before, but we didn't really understand it the way we do now. Look at this. Stock photography and original graphics takes up 3/4 of what goes on. You've got to remember a couple of things. Number one, all graphics need to be approved or licensed. Just because you found it on the internet doesn't mean it's free. You need to make sure you're not violating any copyright infringement. If you're going to use photography, get high-res images. Nothing worse than staring at a high-res computer screen and looking at a highly pixelated image. And as far as charts and videos, I'm going to give you some tools that will make your life so easy. You're going to give me a virtual hug just for giving you these links. For me, it's made all the difference in the world. So here comes my first thing, and you should screenshot this. This is a link to give you PowerPoint checklists, design tips, killer apps, tricks, etc. And it's all done in one location. This is your master's class in PowerPoint. Even if you are not doing PowerPoint yourself, but you have an assistant, whether virtual or salaried, give them this link and it will help improve your PowerPoints and take them to the next level. This is a must-have shot for anybody that's using PowerPoint and wants to take it to the next level. And you notice the link, once again, JFA tips / PP stands for PowerPoint checklist. So I try to make the links as easy to remember as possible, but reminding you, you're going to get a copy of the entire slide deck, and you also got a list of all of the references that I'm doing in this presentation. So don't worry about writing them all down. Just grab those ones for your crayon box that you like the most. For me, number one, Visme. Unbelievably simple to use with thousands of templates to create PowerPoints, infographics, documents, and presentations. It is without a doubt what allowed me to create a 300-page book filled with almost 40 infographics in less than a couple of months. You see this little graphic to the left? Less than 20 minutes in putting it together, thanks to Visme. And with Visme are certain limitations. They don't do videos, so I use Presenter Media. Presenter Media allows me to animate my PowerPoints. It gives me animations that are already there, and they allowed me to create slide clips. So as an example, when I launched my book, I created a video. The video is high res, has licensed music, and in less than 1 minute explains everything there is to know about my book and why you should buy it. If I was paying somebody to do that, it wouldn't have surprised me that they wanted $1,000 to $2,000 to do it. I did it on my own with just my subscription to Presenter Media. Once you've done that, you start to get people sending you emails, and emails drive everybody nuts. This is your sanity email sorter. You sign up for Maelstrom and you create a folder. So let's say you and I are corresponding. You create a James Feldman folder. Now, once you've created that folder, every single email that comes from J. Feldman gets put in the J. Feldman folder. And if you're like me and you get 1,000 to 3,000 emails a day, you sometimes have a tendency to miss some. Because when Barbara is writing to me, it goes right to her Barbara folder. And that folder then gets highlighted with a different color because she's written to me. I can go to the Barbara folder immediately and save hours and hours of searching and trying to communicate. They offer it for free. I do suggest you look at the Pro version, which I think is $6 a month or something. It's certainly under $10. So once again, Maelstrom. Notice JFA tips / Maelstrom. Once you've done that, then you start to move into the next level. Are we going to do PR? Are we going to do link building? My head starts to spin with all this kind of stuff. So I found Respana, and they help me do all of this. They have back checkers, they have systematized ways of doing it. But then I started to run into how much time it was taking me, and I started to feel like I was spending way too much time trying to learn all the things that they did, and it was costing me a monthly fee. So here are 24 other tools that basically do what they do, some not as much, some more, but you can come across, click on one of them, and go search and find out what may or may not be a more personalized way for your productivity and your PR. For me, I like getting the ability to send out smartphone text messages because it breaks through the clutter. The problem is that you have to send them out individually. Well, here comes Pushover. Pushover allows me to build a list, and then that list can all get a text message at one time. And they let you send out 7,500 messages for free. Now, if you're sending out more than 7,500 text messages a month, you should pay for the bigger one. And then I suggest you get yourself a virtual assistant or live assistant because you're spending way too much time sending out text messages. But Pushover will help you do it faster and more efficiently. Once you've done that, then you can start to do a management of your apps. And here's what happens with an app. I have more than one email. I have a Gmail. I have a Shift Happens account. I have an incentive travel account. I have a Tivoli chocolate account. What this allows me to do is grab it and put it into a folder so that using Maelstrom or something else, no matter what comes from James Feldman, whether I send it from one URL or a different URL, they all will go into my contact folder. That way you don't miss a memo that's coming from, let's say, Barbara's Gmail instead of Barbara's Worth It account, or it's coming from Jim's chocolate account as opposed to the Shift Happens account. And it helps you do duplicate remover. And then it has all kinds of other little bells and whistles like weather and birthday reminders, etc. But I do use it. I love it. It is, once again, a real time saver. If you start to think about how you're going to collaborate, this is another way that really competes with, in a certain sense, Zoom and GoToWebinar. It is more in line with collaboration because it allows you to set up your smartphone, your iPad, and your computer all at the same time, so that, as an example, if you're on this call right now and you had to leave for a moment, you could just pick up your cell phone and not lose this webinar. Then you come back and you just put the webinar back on the computer. It's a very, very easy to use video conferencing app that helps you stay in touch and collaborate. I like Whereby because it doesn't require software to be downloaded. It's basically everything that you've seen in GoToMeeting and Zoom and everything else, but you don't need to download anything. And it's very, very simple. Doesn't have breakout rooms, doesn't have a lot of the things that you may have become used to. But if you're going to talk to your grandparents or young kids or someone who doesn't need or want all of the software that is in the background, try Whereby. Once I'm done with Whereby, I go back to thinking about my presentations. And my presentations need to have pictures. Pictures are not free if you find them on the internet. They all say these may be copyrighted. Well, why drive yourself nuts? Go to Unsplash, go to Pixabay, go to Gratisography, and they're all there under common licensing threads, which means any picture that's there, you can use. You don't have to give credit. You don't have to pay for them. Typically, however, if I use somebody's who's a freelancer, I always send them a few dollars and a thank you, but you're not required to do that. They have thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures. Rather than jumping all over the place and worrying about copyright, try these three. Pixabay is probably my number one. Gratisography is my number two because they have so many unusual ones. And then I go to Unsplash in that order. If you're looking for something to upgrade our face-to-face meetings, I came across this in my search. This is amazing. This allows you to create conference programs that use mobile devices, tabs, etc., that are leveraging technology. For instance, when you go to the meeting, you can log in using face recognition instead of having keyboards. You can get information online. You can set up video chats. You can give your permission when you check into the event that you're willing to chat with other people in the event. And what it does is it sets up an intra-event chat box. Think of it as a private Facebook, or think of it as a private TikTok, or whatever you use. It is very, very robust, and it's designed for face-to-face meetings, but can certainly be used for virtual meetings as well. As we move ahead, we're starting to remember that I said time zones were a nightmare. So here's time zone. And what I do with time zone is I put my contacts into the time zone. And so when I pull up the calendar, I've got all of the people that I was doing webinars with, teleseminars with, video conferencing with, and I can quickly see that Jenny is in Australia, and Ella is in Cabo, and someone else is in Europe, and I know what the times are. So perhaps when I'm scheduling my calls, I'm mindful of all those time zones without having to do a lot of calculation. As I get my meetings going, I start to create a workflow. And the workflow is about how to automate my tasks, how to do my actions, how to do my follow-up. If you're collaborating and you've assigned this to other people, then what you want to be able to do is track them. I use several virtual assistants. They're terrible at telling me what they're doing, so I give them an assignment and I typically don't hear from them until they're done. In this case, I can make them fill out this form, which is 2 clicks, to keep me sane and keep them sane for me bothering them all the time. It's called a workflow automation app. Once you've used Zapier, you can look for other things, because in this case, this is literally the same thing, but it's the same conversation with your customers. So this is a CRM program that says, I got a complaint from this customer, and now it starts to track how many complaints, what the resolution was. It has a calendar, it has a timestamp on it, so you can talk about the response time. I had a customer yesterday complain that I didn't give back to him fast enough. I pulled up the screen and I said, here's when you called, here's when I responded, here's when you opened it up. There was dead silence. And then he goes, I'm sorry, I guess I was thinking about somebody else. You're right, I don't have a problem with you. Have a great day. Think about how this could simplify your life if you're involved with any kind of customer service relations. And once you start to do that, remember what I said before. Everything that we do is now written or visual. My brain thinks faster than I type, and my typing doesn't always catch up with what I was thinking. And so everything that I do gets a look over from Grammarly. And Grammarly corrects spelling, it corrects grammar. You can set up your own way of what kind of tone did I want to have, what kind of message did I want to impart, and as a result, you are rolling along with someone who's looking over your shoulder, making you sound smart, and not showing that you can't spell C-S-E-E when you meant C-S-E-A. Outright is bookkeeping for dummies. There's certainly a lot of bookkeeping out there. I like a couple of them. Outright, I like QuickBooks, several others. There's nothing about these that is dramatically different other than the simplicity, the automation, and what you need to do with it afterwards. If you're an Amazon seller, this will integrate your Amazon information right into it. If you're not, it may not be the right one for you. So if that's not the right one for you, then there's other products that we'll talk about, and I'll give you the links. This is SwapCard. This is the one that uses artificial intelligence. It allows you to upload content, and the content has keywords. And the keywords are what your virtual or live attendees have put into their profile. And so if they have uploaded, let's say, the word innovation, and I subsequently upload a white paper that says innovation, it will immediately send them a notification that says, Feldman just put up a paper on innovation, you may want to take a look at it. So it's a stress-free way of sending relevant content using artificial intelligence. Slack, I told you together, is about a way to bring the teams together. This is probably the number one. If we were looking at, let's just say, the things that people use the most, we would say it's QuickBooks for accounting, we would say it's Slack for bringing the teams together. It would probably today be Zoom. We could argue all day long which is number one, but I'm just telling you what it appears to be from my perspective. I love Slack. Interesting thing with Slack is that it now has new rivals. So you've got River, Glip, and the other ones that were up there. Trello is the collaboration group. Trello is a project manager that takes you to the next level because it kind of sets them up as work boards. So it's a much more visible way of looking about how you're going to collaborate. Trello then has a backup to it that is called Monday. And Monday will integrate with Trello and Slack to kind of give you the big picture at a glance. So one becomes more of a micromanager. This becomes a macro manager because it imports that information into customized tables. Once again, note at the bottom, JFA tips/Monday. I can tell you that their link to this was 4 lines long. This productivity tool integrates with everybody. And that was what I talked about before, ANISA. There's a learning curve to ANISA. It's a little harder to learn, but it is amazingly powerful. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but it really has a feature about deadlines that constantly is a reminder. You had a deadline for this, and it starts to remind the team. It integrates with Dropbox and everything else. I talked about Trello. Trello and ANISA are working together with Slack. These three all use what's called Kanban, and Kanban is a Japanese whiteboard learning system. I suggest you familiarize yourself with it because at the end of the day, it will help you manage these big projects even though you don't have a big staff to do it as before. This particular link takes you to the difference between Trello and ANISA. In moving ahead, here's a couple more for your organization. Proven, BoxMeUp, Evernote, Kanban Flow. I didn't spend a lot of time on these because I just want you to take a screenshot of this window, refer to them later, and again, it's vanilla versus strawberry, strawberry versus chocolate, or do I really need vanilla and strawberry to really satisfy my sweet tooth? All of these are a good fit depending on who you are and what you're going to do with them at the end of the productivity session. In terms of one of my favorites, period, bar none, it's YouMail. Think about all the times that you have to leave a voicemail. It's not productive. Here's what's so amazing about YouMail. I set up an individual YouMail for someone who's calling me. So Barbara and I are talking about this particular event. So she calls me on the cell phone and I can say, "Hi, Barbara. I know you're calling about the event, but I'm at the dentist until 2 o'clock. I'll call you back then." Done. Now, when I get out of the dentist, I pick up her voicemail. I can respond to her voicemail, but it also reminds me to change what I left in my voicemail because now I'm out of the dentist and I'm going to say something else. So the advantage of this is not only customized voicemails for every single caller, but for callers that you haven't set up yet. So let's use Barbara as an example. The first time she calls, the message is, "Hi, Barbara, Jim is not available right now." Barbara is amazed that my system recognized her voice. The next time I've created a customized voicemail so it continues to be a two-way communication tool rather than a one-way. It also has truly accurate caller ID. It also lets you block callers, and they will also provide you with a second cell phone number. So rather than giving out your primary number, you give out a cell phone number that's specifically tied to YouMail. So when you call that number, it goes right into voicemail, and you've never given them the number that you use as your primary voicemail number or cell phone number. Love it, love it, love it. As I will tell everybody that today video testimonials are the biggest testimonial you can have, and they're a pain in the neck until I discovered Sotellus. So picture this. I walk up to somebody and say, "Hi, you just heard me talk," and I take a video of you right now. They put in their name, their email, we do the video. The video is then linked back to their phone for them to approve. I ask them to look at it while we're standing there. The moment they approve it, it goes to my website. No uploading, no converting to YouTube, no converting anywhere else. This is the slickest way to get 5-star reviews. Because let's be candid, if they don't give you a 5-star review, you don't need to post it. So when I started my chocolate business, I decided that I would market it by giving out samples. So I'd give out a sample. I'd say to somebody, what'd you think of it? Oh, I loved it. Would you be willing to give me a testimonial? Yes. Within less than a month, I had 150 testimonials about how they liked my chocolate. And so many people said, I love it. I ended up naming my chocolate company, I Love It, spelled backwards. Tivoli. If you want some great chocolate, go to Tivoli Chocolate. Now I have something that you're just going to love, and it's called my Loom Cube. You see how nice the lighting is for me? You see how you can see my face? I'm not in the shadows. That's all being done by that little tiny Loom Cube. It's the size of a pack of cigarettes or playing cards. It's battery operated. It runs for 2 hours. You can control the intensity. You can control the color temperature. It is, without a doubt, one of the most useful things I have ever got for my virtual presentations. And I carry it with me when I want to do my So Tell Us interviews, because it has a filter that diffuses the light as opposed to the harsh light that comes off of your iPhone. I absolutely love this product. If you're doing virtual presentations, you need to look into it. I don't have a lot of teams that sit around the table, so I can't tell you that I've used this, but I think this is the greatest idea I've ever seen. This has multiple speakers and multiple video cameras. You sit it on a table, and as each person starts talking, it spins around and videotapes the person who's talking. It is a 360-degree smart video conferencing tool. It is so technologically advanced. I have shown this to my clients who have all immediately gone out and bought it. I just think if you're getting groups together and you're using Zoom or GoToMeeting, this is one of those things that you can consider, because it can shift the focus to each individual person in the room. Along with that link, you get a Zoom room guide, and that's what that was all for. So this one integrates email and it schedules meetings. So the Cirrus Insight is really the next step on your email if you're going to follow up, if you're going to do a lot of meeting calendar. So it will track it, it will schedule it, it will help you communicate with everything that you're trying to do in the communication to set up the meeting. This is a gift. I found this online. It was called the Hotel Survival Kit. Now, if you're not a hotelier, I suggest you download it anyway. It is an amazing checklist of ideas, suggestions of what to do as we come out of COVID-19. One of the other things that I found is this performance report. And again, whether you're a hotel or a meeting planner, I would suggest you look at it at the very least, because it asks some very important questions to help gauge the impact that you have on your audience. This is a freebie. It's worth your time to check it out. And the party starts here. This is an app that I've seen and recommended to several of my clients that helps you manage restaurants, hotels, and venues all at one time. So if, let's say, you're a casino and you have restaurants and you have events, this would be the type of thing that one thing would do to help you manage all of the activities. It gives you a seat at the table, so to speak. If you're doing CRM, and I know a lot of you take that out to other people, I'm going to give you some support tickets. Take a screenshot of this. These are 9 of the best customer support tickets and social media monitoring, because it will also see if your customer said something good or something bad in their social uploads. In addition, I found some multi-channel apps. This does everything. It actually does more than the last group. So it's got Zendesk. Zendesk you may have seen because it will also then link live people to respond to these inquiries, and as opposed to just AI or just virtual responding. Again, there's a lot of them here. This may not be something that you personally need, but I do suggest you take a screenshot and you share it with those people that have that responsibility. And then lastly, these are the big guys. These are some of the ones that really are a little expensive. They start to add up, but they are so robust. I don't recommend them for small entrepreneurs because they get pricey. I do recommend them for people that do get a lot of customer service, inquiries, input, and it needs follow-up. And for me, this is what's changed my business. This is a calendar, and the calendar sends me 200 leads with names, events, contact information, often budgets, and often their specific requests for what they're looking for. In addition, they will allow meeting planners to put up their requests. So let's say you're a meeting planner and you're looking for a speaker on innovation. Rather than searching all over, rather than going to a speakers bureau, you simply send this to Club Calendar. Club Calendar puts your event on their calendar, and now speakers will be contacting you because you have requested a specific need, want, or desire for your event. This is one of the most amazing and productive tools I have discovered since I won't even tell you. I love this. Time management, always a big deal. Always a big deal to everybody. Take a screenshot of this. I use this to track time with clients. I use it to take minutes. I use it for my own personal tasking. And then, of course, at the end, I had TripIt, which many of you are familiar with, for booking my trips, getting directions, etc. Just grab a screenshot of this. You'll find it to be very productive and helpful. In addition, there's more of the financial things we were talking about. My favorite, I'm going to take you to the bottom, is Mile Tracker. Mile Tracker is an app that goes on your phone and starts recording your mileage. It records your mileage and then gives you an Excel spreadsheet that you can open up and deduct your mileage or get reimbursed. It does it because it's using the GPS on your phone as you're driving your car. Very, very, very productive if you need to track it to get reimbursed or to deduct it from your tax return. And then the miscellaneous. Top one is for expenses. Dropbox we talked about. Polaris Office is a way to sync files. A lot of people are familiar with MailChimp in terms of a mailing platform, but I like ConvertKit. I think it's better. I think it's stronger. I use ActiveCampaign. So if you're familiar with MailChimp, I suggest you look at ConvertKit and ActiveCampaign. If you're not using either, start with MailChimp and then look what the other two will do to add on to what MailChimp does. And then we get to Carbonite, which is a backup, Genius, which is a backup, PickTap2Go, which is ability to be able to put stuff on Instagram. And then lastly, we have Dots, we have HubSpot, we have WordSwag, we have WordArt. I see Barbara smiling, which means she wants me to stop talking, but the Ginsu knives are still there. Let me just click through this, Barbara. It'll take 30 seconds. These are, just go ahead and click these. These are, just click through them. These are 5 of my 10 go-tos that I use all the time. Go to the next screen and do it again. And you will see 5 more, including the flipbook, the URLs, the chocolate, the messaging, and what font. What font allows you to put a font into it, and it'll tell you what the font is so that you can find it and use it for yourself. And with that, you've got my official seal of approval. Back to Barbara.
Awesome. What can I say? You really rolled through that, didn't you? So we understand our time is up. It is just 2 o'clock, but Jim is more than willing to stay on to answer any questions. I did get a couple questions about pricing and told those people to come back, at the end, and you might be able to help them with that or lead them in the right direction. Thank you everyone for being a part of this webinar, and we will be here for the next few minutes if you have questions. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Jim.
everybody.
Okay. Okay, so someone is asking about Canva, Canva. Do you know about that?
Yeah, all the links will take you right to the pricing page. As we said before at the very beginning, there's thousands of apps out there. You just got to find the one that works for you and the one that you can afford. If you want to just email me directly, I'll spend some time with you by email, but I think that's a very specific question that may not be applicable to everybody in the room.
Okay. So here's a question from Jen. She's looking for the last 2 slides. Is it possible to back up a little bit?
The ones with the 10 clicks?
Yeah. Yeah, we could go through this again. And I believe those are in your
Yes,
your
they're in the
presentation.
handout and they're in the slideshow.
Yeah.
If you were only going to pick 10 items, these are the first 10 that I would consider.
Here's someone asking for they like these, but they're looking for the second set. There we
There
go.
you go.
Okay. Okay. I do have a question. I'm a Mac user, so, I'm lucky today. A lot of these apply to me. I also have an Android phone, and I understand how tied into Google Android is. And do you really see, some of these moving over, or what's the obstacle there?
The obstacle is they don't like to play well with one another. And I think that if you, and I'll just make my commercial, if you're using an Android phone and an Apple computer, you're missing a tremendous amount of interconnectivity
I have an
production.
Apple phone too. So
Okay.
yeah, but
Yeah.
my personal phone is
I mean, I have clients that are on Android and I will give them one of these apps and it doesn't work for them, or it's just not as easy to use. That was the one thing that Apple always wanted, is they wanted to make it easy, although it has gotten much more complicated.
Yeah, yeah. I think people were on a tight schedule because we're pretty much done with the questions. So I think we can call it a day. There are a few left. I'm going to give you one more minute if you have any questions for Jim. Otherwise, once again, we do appreciate you being here, and sorry for the brief delay at the beginning. Okay, I think we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
Thank you so much for everything. All righty. Have a good day.